This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you very much. My name is Luyanda Hlatshwayo. I'm from the African Reclaimers Organization. I'm a reclaimer myself. Just to give you background, an African Reclaimers Organization was started in 2017 by a group of reclaimers who started seeing the need to organize from the streets and the landfill. The reason for that was we felt excluded from the decisions that would affect at the end the value chain for us, decisions that would have a negative impact towards our work. So it was literally the introduction of a separation of source program that never included us, the reclaimers. I think the most important thing was for us to be able to I think the most important thing for us was to be able to say our views and get people to understand on the work and to understand that when decisions are made, it's important to have reclaimers, especially when we're speaking about waste. It's important to have the people that are working on the ground to be able to put their views, because at the end you end up finding bad implications that come towards reclaimers. So what happened in 2017 was that a lot of private companies were being incubated into the informal waste collection system, which had very bad implications for reclaimers. About 70% of the work that we used to normally collect was collected by other companies and were being paid by by picking up to be able to do that work. And that is how we initially started. And as a group of people who wanted to stand up for what we believe has been feeding our families, and were distracted by that. And it's a couple of years down the line, we have organized in as many spaces and in as many streets, in as many landfills as possible. And it has been clear that reclaimers in South Africa have been collecting a lot of waste, redirecting a lot of waste from landfills, saving municipalities millions of rands. And we've actually created a system that actually costed South Africa little money when it comes to collecting plastic. We're collecting 80 to 90% of post-consumer plastic at the cost of our bodies, at the cost of our time, at the cost of our hands. And when COVID came in, where most reclaimers were aware of it, some reclaimers were not aware of it, because the structure of the value chain has put reclaimers in exile, if I were to put it like that. There's reclaimers in the middle of a suburb, in a bush, with no power. All they know is waking up in the morning and being able to access that material and be able to go sell it to a buyback center. So when we started talking about COVID, people didn't even know what COVID was. I remember on the first day when we actually went out and said, let's see if the guys have actually gone to work. And we're seeing a lot of guys actually did go to work when COVID started, because there wasn't really much clarity on what COVID was. I think the second main reason was that there's been a lot of pandemics that never affected society but affected reclaimers, and we've been able to stand up for them for a middle for such a long time. It could be the pandemic of listeriosis. Listeriosis caused a lot of problems for us. The polony was all over the landfills, and we had a lot of people that fell sick about it. And it was a pandemic to us because it affected us. We've had a pandemic of not being recognized. There's poverty, and the problem, the reason why I'm mentioning these things is because they're still happening till today. There's a problem of not recognizing the people that actually make up these numbers of 80 to 90% of post. It was difficult to put a face to it, because the majority of reclaimers in South Africa are not South Africans. It's people coming from Lesotho, people coming from for jobs, and they find out that there's no jobs. And unfortunately, most people end up going into the recycling industry collecting materials. When COVID happened, it was difficult for a lot of foreign nationals, because when you get grant funding from the government saying that, well, this is supposed to be helping the taxi industry, this is supposed to be helping this, but then there's a problem in our industry. As I said, most of the reclaimers are not South Africans, and it became a xenophobic action towards us, saying we can only be able to give food parcels or whatever to people that have ID documents. But when we're coming and delivering the plastic, no one is talking about documentation. That was the biggest pandemic that we've actually had, the pandemic of not being recognized for the work that we do. Reclaimers have been collecting materials even before democracy, if I were to put it like that. And it has actually been a job for people that feel, I can't find a proper job, I can't find a job that I'm actually qualified for, or I'm not qualified. I'm from a different country and I need to earn a living. And there's people that come from prisons and don't want to go back into doing crime. There's people that just got their matrics but they can't find a job and have to feed families. That those are people that we're looking at. It's looking beyond the balaclava that people are working at. So before we actually talk about the pandemic of COVID itself, when it came, there was a pandemic already, and it was difficult for reclaimers to be part of society and fighting back the problem of COVID. We had to find our own ways, but we've been doing it. That's the thing. The work that we do has a very high health risk because we don't know some of the things that people dispose. When you open a bin, you don't know what you're expecting. I've found many crazy things in bins whilst collecting. I've found diapers. We've found human thumbs, and we found a lot of things. People expose a lot of things to us when they dispose, which is very important for us to start initially making a point that each and every household finds a way of disposing their waste properly, of separating their waste. Because it was very easy for reclaimers to be able to get to get covered. Because if I'm traveling to Rosebank and I'm going to be collecting close to 400 bins, the chances of me getting the disease is very high. How we were able to go through it, reclaimers have been sanitizing before people know what sanitizers were. Reclaimers have been wearing masks even before people knew what COVID was. We've been protecting ourselves. So I think that explains why most reclaimers wear masks. It's not because they're hiding themselves. It's mainly because the rubbish that we are collecting stinks. People are not separating their materials. People are not concerned about what they're disposing. So when COVID came, it was us re-educating ourselves on, oh, we normally go through this. It was easy for us to understand the importance of washing our hands and sanitizing because we do it on a daily basis. How COVID affected us, it was the worst thing was not having a plan of collection. Most reclaimers literally live from hand to mouth because we don't have storage facilities. If you need to store materials for a month, you need to pay rent. If you need to store materials for a month, you need to hide your materials somewhere in a bush. Unfortunately, the city doesn't provide reclaimers, the country doesn't provide reclaimers with proper infrastructure for them to be able to continue with their work. There's always been a process of formalizing, but it becomes difficult to formalize an industry that you hardly understand. That we need municipalities to understand. We need residents, we need communities to understand. We need the industry to understand the type of work that we're doing. Because all that people know is that reclaimers collect materials and they go sell it. There's more that goes into the work. There's a problem of hygiene that we go through on a daily basis. For a reclaimer to have soap is a necessity. For a reclaimer to be covered in your mouth, it's a necessity. You can't go to work without covering your mouth, without gloves. So when COVID came, we actually noticed that we need we need a lot of assistance. We've been doing a lot on our own and we've mastered it. The problem was the economics of it. Reclaimers, as I said, live from hand to mouth. When you don't have sorting spaces, that literally says you don't have a bank. You don't know where to store. But we saw a different trend because when materials lost value, reclaimers kept on going on to collect. And we saw tonnages of materials being stored. So we're seeing this informal sector that still continues to save the environment, continues to save municipalities and communities a lot of time, money, helping on environment, even on COVID. We were very fortunate that we had a truck when COVID started. We had access to a truck, and we were able to apply for permits. And immediately when the minister announced that we have special services, we're able to go and collect, even in areas where normally pick it up or other private companies would collect, but they were so afraid of the COVID pandemic that they never collected. We were getting calls from exclusive suburbs where we would normally wouldn't see a trolley coming in, because now they could see the value of this informal sector that is able to come in when no one is expecting it to come in. It came in, and it was able to move the rubbish. It was able to move all that waste. We would find suburbs filled with plastic bags and would move it. There was no value to it at that time, but we had to go in storage mode because there was nothing else that reclaimers could do. The government is not supporting. The residents still have that stigma of, is he a drug addict or this or that. It will be becoming a nuisance. But now in COVID, it literally changed, because we are able to collect materials when no one is able to collect materials. That's when some of the stakeholders actually saw the values of reclaimers in South Africa. The issue of recognition is one of the most important things that we've been talking about as reclaimers immediately when we started our organization. Mainly on the pillar that we need to recognize the work that we do. We need to recognize that we can make our own decisions. The problems with recognition, with not being recognized, people end up making decisions for you that end up not working. For example, we've had companies coming and say, we want to donate trolleys to reclaimers. And reclaimers will come and say, who said we want trolleys? We don't want to be pulling all these things for the rest of our lives. We want to move up the value chain. Instead of buying us 1,000 trolleys, rather get one truck, and get that one central truck to be able to service a lot of reclaimers. We are looking at centralizing our work. Reclaimers now understand that, well, we are collecting 80 to 90% of post-consumer. We are important. If we decide not to work, there's a lot that would happen. I'm speaking to you now. There's a landfill that is literally up in flames, and reclaimers are saying, we knew that was going to happen. We knew that was going to happen because in COVID, things were not happening the way things were happening. The materials that were being thrown there are materials that was not supposed to be thrown there. So personally, I saw the value of the informal sector coming in and being able to save as many of the stakeholders as possible, but there's still that not that recognition coming in. We're still not being recognized. It's only now that you're having companies from industries coming and say, well, this is what you guys are doing. But recognition, verbal recognition is good as nothing. We need recognition that is going to be able to say, if it happens that there is another pandemic that will come in the next 3 or 4 years, or if the pandemic doesn't end, if COVID doesn't end and it continues with it, what is municipalities planning to do about reclaimers? What is communities planning to do about reclaimers? What are reclaimers planning to do about their work? Are we as South Africans ready to integrate into a system that reclaimers have created for the past 20 years and be able to help them out on it? The pandemic has actually showed us that we need to recognize each and every person within the value chain, not only just in recycling, but the informal sector in South Africa has been handling the lives of men and women for a very long time. When you find a taxi driver saying it's lockdown, you're not supposed to be working, how are they supposed to be feeding their families? The mother that's selling fat cakes every morning on the streets, how are they be able to pay rent? I think it's about time we need to change the stigma of an informal economy. When are we starting to formalize that economy, that informal economy? When are we starting to make sure to see that, well, these children that are going to varsity, who's paying for that tuition? It could be that mama there at the corner that's selling fat cakes. We need to find alternatives if it happens that we are not able to work for 3 months. What are reclaimers going to do? We are very fortunate that the minister did announced that you can be able to go through and work when the levels change. But it's very important that next time we need to register reclaimers. We need to know how many reclaimers are there. We need to know how much of these reclaimers, how much weight are they collecting, how much are they redirecting outside of or from the landfill. What we have started doing is small pilots that work differently in different communities, different municipalities, where we're having a program of reclaiming with reclaimers to know what is it that the reclaimer collects. Why is a reclaimer not collecting bottles? Why is a reclaimer not collecting styrofoam? We need to make that link that connects us directly and not make decisions for reclaimers, because it ends up having bad implications from that. One of the major problems that we face is the problem of logistics. For reclaimers, the pandemic has proved to us that we are we have been the backbone of the industry with our bodies, and it's a shame that the recognition is only coming now. But people have been saving in the environment with their bodies for many years. And it's about time that we need to start. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a financial perspective. We need recognition on each and every level. If you're going to make a webinar with reclaimers, you need to engage with reclaimers. You need to find out what is it that is very important that reclaimers need to take out. We have a problem that in this value chain, we're seeing the most problems that we're seeing now. The materials, the flow of materials, is that immediately when the materials when the market closes, the value goes down. But when the market opens, you see the value not going up. So you're seeing all the materials that reclaimers have been collecting for the past 4 or 5 months, instead of coming back to the normal value of 5 rand, we're seeing the private sector coming and pressing on reclaimers again and putting the price of the lowest market, because there's a surplus of it. The industry is not regulated. So the person at the bottom will always stay at the bottom of the food chain. We need to change that mentality. We need to change how the value, how the recycling industry works. We need to start separating our materials. We need to start looking at other systems. Maybe the current system that we are looking at, that we are using, is not working. Maybe Pick It Up is not working properly. Maybe we need to integrate reclaimers. Maybe we need to integrate Pick It Up and the whole society in a system that reclaimers have mastered. And as CSIR says, they're collecting 80 to 90% of post-consumer plastic. There's something that is important that reclaimers are doing. If reclaimers are able to collect during the pandemic and redirect materials during the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to find ways of supporting, we need to find ways of helping and pushing this informal economy and making a point that it continues, because it is competing with world standards when it comes to plastic collection. I don't
Thanks.
know.
Hi, sorry, Luyanda. I think were you on mute, or were you finished speaking? Okay. That's great. Thanks so much, Luyanda. It's great to hear all of it, and also all your input. And it's true. I think I think it's often sort of an overlooked area of the waste streams in South Africa, and waste reclaimers play a vital role in diverting waste from landfill, and in terms of saving the municipality money in landfill space, and sort of recycling of plastic. I'm going to give everyone a chance to send their messages through in the chat. In the meantime, the SSC film team went up to Joburg earlier during an earlier phase of lockdown to chat to some of the reclaimers there, and they've done a few interviews, which will be shared as a segment on 50/50 towards the end of next month, as far as I know. But for now, we just have a bit of a teaser to show you. But in the meantime, please feel free to send through your questions, and we'll play this in the meantime.
It's not a nice job, honestly, to scratch rubbish from someone's bin, but because of the situation and the condition where you are, there's nothing else you can pick up. Rather than going to wait for you come with camera, then I just grab it and run or what you see. 1, 2, 3, they are losing jobs in SABC, 1,000 what permanent, they are losing jobs, what. People who are qualified, you see now, what about you? So yeah, even when we pick up stuff now, you see we lost a lot of branches because restaurants, they are not operating the way the Monte Casino, the way people used to be too much, you get cans, they are not operating, people are not drinking. No more those cans for beer or empty bottles for beer, you can go and sell it. So since Corona started, the prices are down.
Like looking at this bag here, it must be full at least for us to get something, If you're looking at maybe about 60 kgs, then we're looking at what, maybe 120 rand to almost 200 rand, yeah.
Because those things, you scale them differently. Like those bottles for cold drink is like 2 rand 10 cents per kilo. Those cans that you drink for cold drink is 11 rand now. And the for milk is HD, that one. It's 2 rand 80. Polyprop is containers and what and buckets and what is 280 also, is down.
People are not buying a lot of cold drinks and bottles are not so many like how we used to always get them, especially like festive times. That's the times where we collect more of these bottles.
While everyone sends through their questions, Luyanda, I had a few. I know you touched on water a bit, but I was just wondering, what is the situation in terms of water availability for waste reclaimers, particularly now during COVID, and since I'm sure like a lot of the recommendations going forward are to sort of sanitize and wash your hands regularly, but that might not always be an option. So I was just wondering if you could comment on that.
Oh yes. It's water is a very important resource. As I said, for us, the washing hands is not just because of COVID. It's one of the requirements when you're a reclaimer. Every time you need to wash your hands at least 2 hours a day, maybe once in 2 hours. There's a lot of reclaimers that are living in hidden spaces, as I said, and water, not just for washing hands, water has always been a scarce resource. It's been the most important resource for us, but we unfortunately were able to distribute some water as an organization throughout COVID. We still have some water that we're still sending out to guys, but it has actually showed that there's no water. People are not getting proper support of sanitizers. People are not getting proper support of masks. There's a lot of resources that have been coming out from government and other entities, but they're not reaching the point of a reclaimer. There's incidences where we found in the municipality where we're distributing food with the municipality and the councillors, where people were not being given resources because they don't have an ID document. I mean, how can you deny someone water because they don't have a document? So those are the situations that reclaimers are facing. So when you're looking at 80% of people that are not being documented, and you look, that's a huge number of people that are being neglected. And how are you supposed to be able to? How are they supposed to be thinking? They can't go home, they can't get resources, they can't get water here, and it's been a difficult process for them. But it becomes difficult to say it's difficult because we've been going through that for the past 20 years. We've been going through that problem of not being recognized for the past 20 years. So people expecting that, oh, now because it's COVID, it's going to be a big story. It's been the problem ever since I've started being a reclaimer. It's difficult when I'm traveling, pulling a trolley for almost 20 Ks, and I need to find water. No one's going to give me water on the road. I have to go to a garage and even pay for it. You know, it's always been a problem for reclaimers, not being recognized, being invisible. So whether it's a pandemic or not a pandemic, we've always had the problem of not being recognized.
Thanks, Luyanda. There have been quite a few questions coming in while you were talking. There's one from Kevin that says, why are municipalities not interested in talking to communities? The waste money hand over fist transporting waste for hundreds of kilometers.
Unfortunately, I'll blame the people that literally started this whole structure, because Pick It Up's mandate is to collect and dispose and not to recycle, to collect recyclables. It's a completely open market for the informal sector, for the private sector to come in and be able to take a huge piece of that pie. Actually, it dismantled what was a very good way of saying Vukuzenzele for people that don't have work. It could be very easy for municipalities to give land. For example, the city of Johannesburg is wide open with a lot of municipal land that is sitting and doing nothing. Why are they not handing it over? We don't know. We can literally end the problem of waste in the city of Johannesburg by just creating one small waste hub where all the materials go there by reclaimers. I mean, already they are sorting out the problem of logistics, saving Pick It Up and municipalities millions. The least that can be done is provide the necessary equipment, the necessary resources, the necessary infrastructure. And it's not supposed to be a charity mode. It's a must. We need to be doing that. If we believe that we need to redirect materials from going to landfills, if we need to save our environment, it's not supposed to even be a charity mode. It's supposed to be a requirement. You need to be able to provide resources so that we can be able to redirect the materials that are destroying our environment. It doesn't need a brain surgeon to do that. Unfortunately, we are in municipalities that don't really care about the future, municipalities that are looking at what's happening right now, the tenders that are happening right now. So it's important that is why reclaimers have started a program of starting to engage. We're starting to teach communities. We're doing webinars. We're doing Zoom meetings. We're doing schools campaigns. We've been doing, even before the COVID started, we were starting educating schools. We're going to crashes, teaching people how to separate materials. So we need. We are spearheading this. We need communities to come in. We need councillors to come in, and we need spaces. We need the ear. We need people to start talking to us and find out what is it that we can do to be able to help reclaimers. You'll be shocked on the answers.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's a question that says, from your experience, is it better for reclaimers to collect from homes, sources, or from landfills?
Landfills are going to close very soon. It's slowly changing. That before there was a lot of waste that's coming out from the landfill, and no one was actually carrying, not even looking at collecting the amount of data that we're collecting on the streets. And as Arrow, we've already started doing that, and we're very, very, very fortunate to be working with Unilever on a pilot project of how do we find ways of compensating and recognizing reclaimers for the work that they do. So what would happen? Would have reclaimers coming in and collecting materials and getting paid per kilo for the materials that we're getting. It's not ideal to collect materials from the landfill because they're already contaminated. But reclaimers have the reclaimers at the landfills are, I literally call them the back line, the last line of defense for plastic. Because if the reclaimers on the streets can't catch it, and the private companies that are collecting can't catch it, and the pick it up truck takes it to the landfill, the last line of defense of plastic are the reclaimers at the landfill. So I can't say it's better this way. It's better for the environment in South Africa, for the system in South Africa. Both the collectors in the streets and the collectors at the landfill are doing a splendid job. And as I said, the landfills are going to close. We need to find other ways of redirecting materials. We need to find ways of how do we move the reclaimers from the landfill and take them to another alternative way of collecting material without even interfering with their income, or maybe even improving their incomes. We need to find systems of how do we move the materials from the kitchen and direct it to the reclaimer without even going to the bin. So different communities have different programs. We've got different programs from there. We've got a program in Parkmore. We've got a program in Duxbury where reclaimers put the materials in bins. We've got a program that we're doing in Rivoli where residents are given plastic bags. So it works on different levels. But it's important to understand that we have created a system that makes sure that plastic doesn't go to the landfill. We collect from the streets, and we've got a backbone that's collected from the landfill, which right now we can't really change because there's a lot of tonnages that we're redirecting. It's a system that's working and it's informal.
Thanks, Luyanda. There's a question that says, is there any move in Johannesburg to include reclaimers in the, I'm not sure if this is SOS program or S@S? Does that relate to the Unilever program that you just mentioned?
Yes. It was initially we initiated with it with Unilever in Brixton and Auckland Park, and the project is still going on right now. We have different other projects in different communities. We tailor make with the residents on how they would prefer it. Some residents are really not keen on listening to trolleys each and every morning coming into their neighborhood. So we find ways of making a system that works both for the residents, both for security companies, for reclaimers. It will make it inclusive. Plastics SA has something they call an inclusive circular economy. It needs each and every person to come in to make it a point that the problem of plastic is solved.
All right. There's another question from another question that says AI and optical sorting coupled with some hardware can help sort waste, perhaps on a household scale or at landfills. Would this help reclaimers?
Oh yes, it would. It would. What the separation at source a program is the main program that we need to do it. I think the city had tried to do it in 2017. They were doing the right thing, but the wrong initiation because there was not educating that came in. So the project that we've done, we've gone that the regular reclaimer that you see outside your house, that is a person that knows what is recyclable. That will be your educator. So it's an inclusive program where we get the reclaimers to be able to go to schools and educate the children, to go to different go to clinics and teach them about medical waste, how to dispose medical waste. We are attending cleaning campaigns with communities. We're cleaning rivers. We're doing a program with the community where we're cleaning the Jaske River, and it's been an inclusive program where even we're seeing the importance of separating materials also coming in and helping reclaimers in terms of time. Instead of spending 20 minutes in one bin, a reclaimer can just cover up the whole street by just collecting separated plastic bags, and it literally saves a person half of the day instead of going through bins. So it's a program that is proved to have worked even in other countries. Is how we are able to install it into our own system, into our communities, into our streets.
Thank you, Luyanda. There's another question which I think will relate to that from Alexi that says, thank you so much for your talk. It was really eye-opening. How can people and everyday citizens support and learn more about reclaimers? Because a lot of people are unaware of the great importance that reclaimers have. I think you're still on mute.
Oh, thank you. Well, you want to know about reclaimers? Just come out on collection day and see if yeah. We have a Facebook page that tries to show the authentic part of who and what we do, who we are. It's African Reclaimers Organization. But the best way for you to be able to understand the type of work that we do, the cheapest way than having a webinar is actually engaging. Find ways of engaging. We've started engaging with the CAN groups who are very vast in as many communities as possible. We engaging with the reclaimer would actually be the first step of you starting to separate the materials, as I said earlier on. But we have a program that we're starting. We are looking at rolling it out throughout the city of Johannesburg, of including residents, including office parks, trying to include as many people as possible who handle waste. It's for us to be able to fight it. As I said, we need to come in together. So yes, we do have programs that we're doing in different communities. You just give us the information of where you want to start that program. Would come in, include the reclaimers that are within the community, not displace them out of work. So it's coming in using the very same reclaimers that are in that community to be able to get the system to start working properly.
Thanks, Luyanda. I really like your suggestion about sort of getting involved and getting input from waste reclaimers in order to try and, fix the gaps in our waste streams. There are another few comments that says they were going to ask about sanitizers and mask availability for the reclaimers. I don't know if you want to comment a bit more on that.
Yes, as I said, it's the resources are scarce. We had to opt for. Fortunately, we partnered with very important stakeholders. We were able to donate important sanitary materials. So the cheapest solution for us for sanitizers was sunlight and jig and water. It's the cheapest and it's the cleanest one, and we've been using it. So we met with the likes of Unilever and CCBSA, who asked us, what do you guys need for COVID? And we literally told them the things that we needed. So we are able to distribute it, but it's not enough. When we've distributed, we're still distributing water till today. There's a huge shortage of necessary PPE. As you see, reclaimers most of the time will be wearing balaclavas, because we try to wash it on a daily basis. But PPE for reclaimers has always been a huge problem. The sanitizing materials. We've opted sometimes. I hear some other reclaimers, they say they get their sanitizers from the residents that truly understand what we're doing. Because guys go open bins and they find a bottle of sunlight filled with sanitizers. Unfortunately, we'll have to depend on that. But we do need as much of the sanitary materials as possible. I think we are the ones that are more in line into contracting the disease. When I open bins, I'm actually exposing myself to everyone that's living in your house if I open your bin. And if I open the bins throughout the whole road, I'm exposing myself to everyone that's living on that road. I need to be properly sanitized, and we haven't been receiving that properly.
There have been a few other comments that say reclaimers are a huge asset. And then there's a comment from Palisa that says, thank you, Luyanda, for a great presentation. Just one question. In most places, people complain that the waste reclaimers open bags looking for recyclables and then leave the bags open, which contributes to plastic pollution. What is your view on that, or what do you think can be done to prevent the reclaimers and communities to prevent this from happening in those communities?
Eliminate competition and make the material accessible. It's simple. The reason why we come in early in your neighborhoods at around 2-3 o'clock, because we are in competition with the pick it up truck. Immediately when the pick it up truck comes in, there's no more work. So that is why we're coming in there. So I'm in a rush, I have to open that bag and go to the next one. If we can make a simple engagement with pick it up and say, pick it up, come in at 11-12 o'clock. Trust me, it would change systems. It would change behavior, first of all. We've seen it in other communities where instead of getting the recyclables to come out on a Wednesday, we get them to come out on a Tuesday. Reclaimers have that time. There's no competition against the pick it up truck. Number two, separate the materials. If I'm going to see a diaper, I'm not gonna open that bag properly. If you're to separate your materials and have all your plastic materials on the side and have all the waste that is not supposed to be recycled on the other side, I'm not going to even open that bin. I'm just going to take that plastic bag and leave. So residents sometimes are the ones that cause us to do that. We are doing it, but if you've combined your pap, your biryani, your everything all in one, and I need to get that plastic bag, it's going to be difficult for me to open it. I'm just going to tear it on the side and take that Coke bottle and leave.
A very, very good point. There's a question from Thea that says, I've been supporting the waste reclaimers for the past 20 years, and the separation at source program is not available in my suburb. Recently, a private company started collecting recyclables in direct competition with the reclaimers. Luyanda, can you comment?
Unfortunately, that is a trend that has been happening. As I said, when we started our organization, we were literally fighting against that. We literally stopped, I think, about 7 cooperatives that were supposed to be appointed by Pick It Up to collect recyclable in what you call your high incoming areas. That would be a Randburg, Sandton, that area. Fortunately, we had a march against the city, and we had 2 marches actually against the city and the MMC at the time, and we were able to stop some of those contracts because they were completely going to dismantle the system that has been supporting poor Black people that have been helping that have been working and helping the environment for many years. Unfortunately, it's a system that is happening where a person that has a BE certificate and a cooperative doesn't know anything about reclaiming, has a truck, will get support from Pick It Up, will be given land to be able to sort the materials, it will be given diesel, and that drivers will be paid for. And you're going to eliminate 500 people who are collecting in one suburb and allow only one person to be able to read from that. That is a system that has been happening, and we've learned to accept it. That is why we would come to your communities early to make it a point that we bid that truck.
Thanks, Luyanda. It's a very good point that I think people don't always consider. I think people often think, oh, they're doing their bit to recycle, but they don't think about the social implications that has. So thank you.
I think it's important that we need to make it clear that those cooperatives, they get paid for coming and collecting, they get paid for selling that material. So they get paid twice. They get paid by government and they get paid after selling. They come and employ people that don't even know the work and just say, this is PET, this is HD, sort out material, give you 50 Rand a day. That's exactly what's happening. And displacing a system that has been working for all these years. We need to come back and looking at the bylaws. We need to come back and look at the role of Pick It Up. What exactly is their role? Is their role supposed to be contracting companies to be disowning the work, the work that people have been doing? I think it's important for us to understand that as a community, we do have powers. I mean, communities are paying Pick It Up. They're paying municipalities for the services that is being provided. If the services that is being provided by Pick It Up is disowning the informal sector, I think us as the public, we need to come up and say, this is wrong.
There's a comment that says municipalities have to comply with onerous legislation such as supply chain management as governed by Municipal Finance Management Act. It does not support informal sectors and businesses in terms of compliance regulations. Lots of work is needed here in order to open this glass ceiling. I think we can all agree with that. And you as well, Luyanda?
Yes, I fully agree with that. The recycling industry in South Africa is too open. It has a lot of loopholes. The price of cardboard can be 1.50 Rand on Monday, and it becomes 2 Rand on Friday, and the following Monday it can be 50 cents. No one is regulating the price. It's too loose. It's got too many loose ends. We need to find ways of tightening and putting proper laws on it.
Then there's a comment replying to the previous point that says municipalities have no idea. They have trouble getting consultants to do decent waste management reports, and they've often found errors and assumptions in those reports as well. Then there's another comment that says it's a loss for municipality if stuff doesn't come to landfill because they charge fees for waste to be thrown there. Then there's, one more comment that says, we salute you reclaimers. Integration on a community level, working together with African Reclaimers Organization is the way. Please connect with Arrow via the social media Facebook page. Get involved. By being here, you are part of the change that is now. Well done for being here. Go forth and inspire others. This is our home and all our people. Recyclable materials are not for landfill. That's from Lauren. Thanks so much for that. Do you want to add to that, Luyanda?
Yes, it is important for us to collaborate. Just to make a quick example, there's a landfill in Panorama right now that is literally up in smoke. It's been burning for almost a month now, and the word from the reclaimers there was, well, wrong materials were being thrown there during COVID. That is why the landfill is burning. And you find the community moving around asking GDOT, asking regulators, how do we stop this? But no one is engaging with the reclaimers on what burns, what caused the fire. We're not asking the relevant people what is happening to the reclaimers on those landfills. I think that is where that link between communities and reclaimers needs to come in, because it's not all the time that we can trust the word from municipalities. Personally, I don't trust municipalities personally, but it's municipalities. It's us. We are the community. We are the municipality. That's one thing that we need to trust. We need to understand. So we're not trusting our abilities. We need to come together, communities, reclaimers, and find solutions. We are looking for solutions on how do we find ways of switching off the landfill that is causing toxics throughout the whole. It's not only affecting the reclaimers now. It's affecting people living in the neighborhood. People are going to the doctors. It's a problem. People can't sleep at night because of the methane that smells from there. And if we had found ways of getting that community to work with reclaimers 2 years back, we wouldn't be finding problems of landfill burning right now. So yes, I agree with Lauren. It is about time that we make that links and make it a point that we redirect the materials from going to landfill and find alternative ways to be able to not to displace the reclaimers, the landfill, but to be able to provide alternative ways for them to be able to earn an income through recyclable materials.
Thank you. Then there's a comment from Salim that says the integration of reclaimers at the material recovery facilities or drop-offs are needed in order to unlock what Luyanda has been alluding to. In addition, there needs to be on-the-job mentoring and training in upskilling to the next level, i.e. supervisory and management plus entrepreneurship on a large scale. And then just a note that the comment earlier was referring to separation at source. Thanks for that. And then there's a question from Tony who says, do reclaimers see mobile buyback systems such as packaging as an asset or as competition?
I think just to comment on the first statement, we not that I want to kill the status of municipalities, but yes, they are failing us. We have a material recovery facility in one of the landfills in Robertson, next to the city of Johannesburg and Poison. It costed the city close to 20 million to build that material recovery facility. It could have been the ideal start for us to start properly cleaning our city. And it has not been used ever since it started. I think it worked for only 2 years. It's sitting down and rotting. And if we're to ask them, why are we not using these facilities, they will tell you about a lot of things that are not working. So we want to start working on things that are going to be constructive. What I've learned with the municipalities is that there will be a lot of engagements, but a lot of unmeaningful engagements. But with local communities, with residents on that one-on-one, there's a lot of strengths that we are able to make, and we are able to come in. And the municipalities, well, we do need them. Whether they come in now or they come in later, we do need them. But it's about time that we as the individual stands up and says, let me do something. And it starts literally by separating the plastic in your kitchen.
Thank you, Luyanda. And I think that relates to another question that says, is it possible to get reclaimers trained to do to assist with educating households to teach them to separate their waste at source? So I think that refers to what you were just saying. Can you comment on the question asking whether reclaimers would see mobile buyback systems such as packaging as an asset or more as a competition?
It's the packaging. It's good in certain communities. I know in the Western Cape it's working very well, because it's mainly focusing on communities. So there's work. There's communities like, for example, in Alexandra, where you have your old grannies storing up materials over a period of a month, storing up bottles. It would work there. For an everyday reclaimer who's collecting 300 to 400 kilograms a day and storing it for a period of a month, no, it's not going to work. We reclaimers are different. In the city of Johannesburg, we're talking about a lot of volumes. Talking about volumes that would, if you had two reclaimers that would store materials, it would fill 2 trucks. You know, so a packaging machine is fit for old ladies that are coming to sell in small plastic bags.
Thanks, Luyanda. I think that's a great response, and great to hear your input on it, because I think it's a good program, but it's great to know that it won't sort of jeopardize income for reclaimers or anything, but it would sort of serve it would be a service to the community rather than competition for a vital part of the waste stream. There's a question that says, what is your strategy to expand to other small towns?
It's invitation. You invite us, we'll be there. We use the needs that reclaimers may have. For example, if what you call it, get a call from the reclaimers in Constantia, in Panorama, and say we have a problem of abandoning landfill. It could be a resident that connects to with Arrow and say we have a problem of. So we go according to we organically growing at this point, where there's a need for a separation source program, when there's a need for Arrow, where there's a need for reclaimers to be introduced, to be incubated into a certain community, we will get there. But we've been getting invites from Stellenbosch, we've been getting invites from Kimberley, we've been getting invites from different provinces. COVID came in, everyone knows. But yes, we are accepting calls. We don't necessarily say, hey, Arrow has to do this. We want to teach other guys how to do their own Arrow. It's not easy running an organization nationwide. But if circumstances force us, we are able to send organizers to different provinces. We've come into Welkom, we've come into the Free State, we've come into Pretoria. So slowly but surely, we are growing into other communities. But literally, if it's a phone call that says, we need you guys to come in and help us to do a separation source program, we'll definitely be there.
That's very encouraging to hear. There's a comment from Kevin that says, Luyanda, 100% agree with regards to trust in municipalities. Everyone in our area is very happy to sort and recycle, but when it's all bulldozed into a skip and transported 120 k's to a landfill, they ask the question, why bother? And then there's another question that says, we understand that Arrow is in the process of registration of the reclaimers. What is the known estimate number of reclaimers currently?
No one knows. Hence, we are doing that registration drive. And the reason why no one has the actual data of how many reclaimers are there is because of the problem that we spoke about, recognition. Who is eligible to register to be a reclaimer in South Africa? Because the normal registration drives that the city would go in with, they would want ID documents, and that would only be catering for only 20%, because only 20% are South Africans. So we haven't been getting the actual figures. So we have started our own drive where, regardless of your nationality, your color, your age, your gender, if you're a reclaimer, you get registered, so we can be able to know the number of reclaimers that we have, so we can be able to know exactly how much are reclaimers actually diverting from the environment, because no one actually knows that value as yet.
Thanks, Luyanda. It's great to hear that you are looking to have a registration process in place so that we could gather some information about that. There's another comment that says, great and very enlightening conversation, Luyanda. When it comes to informal waste sector integration, targeted as a key strategy objective in every national policy document, do you feel that in real life, each reclaimer is treated by governments equally and would have equal opportunities linked to these integration plans?
We are constantly fighting to make it a point that everyone gets recognized for the work that they're doing, regardless of where they come from or documentation. It's we are I personally feel that we need to start the process of integration. We are not ready as a country yet for us to be able to see proper integration. It's not going to be happening in this lifetime, but we are starting the process of integration. There's a lot of our political agendas that need to be moved out for us to be able to do it properly. We need to make it a point that there's a lot of bylaws that need to be changed so that everyone needs to be recognized. The bylaws right now don't allow each and every reclaimer to be actually to be entered into the labor books. You know, we're not registered. We need every reclaimer to be registered as a worker. Right now, we can't do that. But we are hoping that through the power of materials that reclaimers are collecting, through the work that reclaimers are collecting, through the data that we'll be collecting, that will be able to push municipalities to say, you need to recognize and be able to register properly into the working data of South Africans that these are workers. We need to change it from saying it's informal workers. We are workers.
There's another question which might be a bit tricky to answer, but Luyanda, on average, do you know how many dependents are supported per reclaimer?
I'm supporting 3 beautiful women, my mother, my daughter, and my partner. But just to give you a bit of a glimpse, there's a lady in Mariloui's landfill who's taking her 3rd daughter to varsity with the work that she's been doing. So if you work hard, you are able to earn a living. And it has, unfortunately, it has dropped the price of oil, the interruption by the private sector. But for people that are really hard workers, you can be able to feed your family. The competition has really changed. If we're to look at the materials that we used to receive around 2010, 2011, 2013, 2012, it was sustainable. We could be able to sustain your needs. We could be able to pay rent. Now it becomes extra difficult because when Eskom shares jobs, 50% of those people end up coming into the industry. If people coming from Lesotho are coming here looking for jobs and they can't find jobs at the mines, they end up in the streets or at the landfill collecting. So it's as much as the plastic is there, but the unemployment rate in South Africa is making it much more difficult even for reclaimers to be able to earn a sustainable income because there's someone new always coming in every day, and you can't say no. It's an informal system.
There's another question that says, is it worth recycling glass? How much do you get for it?
Can you please repeat that?
Sorry, it says, is it worth recycling glass? How much money do you get for it?
Well, glass at the current moment is on a stale mode. Since COVID, the big glass recycling companies have shut down, so automatically the price of it has drastically dropped. But reclaimers are still collecting because it still has value. Even if PET normally PET, the plastic bottles, it would be still like right now it's 3.40 a kilo. Probably by December, the mid of December, it will be like 50 cents a kilo. But still, reclaimers are still going to be able to collect it. So the problem with bottles mainly is it's heavy. It's a logistical problem. But it can be solved if reclaimers can be able to get infrastructure support. So instead of traveling 20 kilometers, you have a central place to say, this is where we sort our materials, this is where our central point is. So it does have value. We would love to move it. It's very heavy. We need support on that.
There's another comment that says the Western Cape government has started to develop a database during COVID lockdown in order to establish a database. Problems again arose when South African identity documents were needed. This was to ensure food could be delivered as per national government initiative. There should thus be a starting point in a province where the number of reclaimers can be established. Then there's another question that says, Luyanda, I hear you talking about the ID for the reclaimers. Would it help you to form a partnership with Home Affairs so that reclaimers can become documented citizens?
Yes, it's very possible. We've come up with many different programs where we've even started engaging with the embassies of other countries, the embassy of Lesotho, the embassy of Mozambique, and try to create that link of being able to do that. We would love to engage with Home Affairs. We have engaged with Home Affairs before. We haven't really found proper ground on how to find solutions. We all see the problems, but finding solutions. So we have engaged with the Embassy of Lesotho, for example, who have actually been very helpful in helping to recover ID passports of other guys that have lost their passports, have helped also to help other reclaimers who never had passports, who came in illegally, and we found ways of helping them out. So we are just reclaimers. We are African reclaimers. We don't know a lot. We're just learning on the process. We would love to get as much assistance as possible to be able to help the process of registration. The program that's happening in the Western Cape, I'm very excited about it. I wish I would be there. The reclaimers there are getting, I think they're very fortunate because the municipalities actually do understand the importance of the work they're doing. And the municipalities wants to be the first, is putting a step forward. It will have very positive results depending on who is going to be spearheading that. My suggestion to them would be put the reclaimers first, and then you'll be able to understand the whole economics of it, and then you can be able to find solutions. If you want to know what's wrong with your car, you go speak to a mechanic. So for the community to be able, for the municipality to be able to pull it off and integrate reclaimers properly, let's put reclaimers, and don't get anyone else to speak for reclaimers. Get the reclaimers to explain to you how they want to move, how they want to be integrated, do they want to be integrated, and when do they want to be integrated.
Thanks, Luyanda. There are a few other comments that says KZN has also started a database to assist with food parcels. And then there's a comment that says, I've done extensive tests using glass in many users. For us, we would get 1 cent per 5 kilogram delivered as shards to console, and it has to have been cleaned and a minimum of 32 tons. That includes the subsidy they would give for transport. Does that sound like a similar case for you in terms of glass prices?
There's a lot of middlemen that have come in and have really taken away the value of the materials that we're collecting. Before it actually reaches the recycler, it goes through many different hands, and for no particular reason. Just because people have storage spaces and people have a baling machine, they can buy materials for 20 cents and go sell them for 3 rand. That's literally what's happening. Which is why we as ARO are starting on programs of centralizing resources. It will have an immediate change for reclaimers, because instead of Luyanda coming and selling their loose materials, I will be able to, if I do have infrastructure, on a good scenario, municipalities provide infrastructure, industries provide machinery, reclaimers provide materials, upscale the materials by baling them and semi-processing them, and they're able to earn a proper, sustainable income. Unfortunately, it will temper with certain middlemen who literally haven't been doing anything, just buying and selling from reclaimers. But that is how we are actually looking what integration in other communities, in other municipalities, how it would work. It will have immediate, direct, and positive impact to the person on the ground.
Thank you, Luyanda. There's a comment that says, this was a great presentation and sharing of information. And then I just have one other question, Luyanda. Can you comment at all about the change in volumes of recyclables during lockdown? So for instance, with the alcohol ban, does that, I know that had an impact on the buying of glass and things like that. So was the availability of recyclables influenced during lockdown? And how did that affect the reclaimers during an already tough time?
Well, for us in the CBD, for the reclaimers that are collecting in your northern suburbs, your high incoming areas, it actually went up, because reason why, the private cooperatives that have been employed never applied for collection permits, which means they had to sit down and do nothing. So there was surplus of materials. The problem is that we could not sell it. So the reaction on COVID was different from the service providers and us. When COVID started for us, unfortunately, we saw an opportunity of collecting a lot of materials, storing it, and selling it at a later stage. For the guys at the landfills, it dropped because your municipal trucks didn't work for a couple of weeks, which means there was no material that actually went in at the landfill. So they never worked for certain periods until we were actually declared as essential services. So it was different behaviors on different spaces and different neighborhoods. Obviously the bottling industry was badly affected. Restaurants were closed. The alcohol ban, it had a complete drop. Even plastic packaging, people wouldn't consume Coca-Cola as regular as they would consume. People wouldn't go out as regular as they would go out. So there was a huge drop on materials, but it was counterattacked by the less of effectiveness of the proper businesses. They were not effective enough to react on how do they find solutions of collecting materials without being affected. And unfortunately, we did have solutions of that. We never encouraged reclaimers to go and work. Instead, we found solutions where we started hiring a truck and getting a driver to go and collect materials, bring the materials to one centralized place, leave it to be leave it for 3 to 5 days for it to be self sanitized, get sanitized, get sunlight, and get the people to start working on it. So what it did, it stopped the people from traveling long distances, from getting them to stop avoiding them to be infected. So people were not collecting, were not going out and opening bins. Instead, a truck would go out, collect the materials with the suburbs, with the communities that we've already had arrangements with, and say, on a Tuesday, we will come, please take out your separated recycling, would come and collect it with the truck and immediately go and take it to a place where we've centralized reclaimers that do need the materials. So they would come, sort it, and sell whatever was able to be sellable at that time. So it's the solutions that actually came in with the problems of COVID, not putting people at risk, but finding solutions of how do we keep people surviving even on the pandemic.
Thank you, Luyanda. That's very encouraging to hear. There's another question that says, what is the current price you get for K4 PET and Hdpe? Your mic, Luyanda.
Hdpe is separated into two now. There's the clear one with your clear milk bottles, the white Hdpe. It has more value now. It varies from 4.50 to 5 rand. In student pocket, it's 5 rand today. PET, it's between 3.20, 3.50. K4 cardboard would be between 1.10 rand to 1.40 depending on where you're selling it. But prices are slowly going to be going down. It's approaching the festive season. They always go down in December because recycling companies close, so which means the buyback centers end up with a huge surplus. They end up dropping the pricing. We end up giving them the materials at close to nothing.
Thank you, Luyanda. Very interesting and useful. And yeah, that seems to be the end of our questions and comments, except a few more that say thanks, Luyanda. I think we can end it here for today. I think we've gone a little bit over time, but it was a really great discussion. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you so much, Luyanda, for joining us and for enlightening us all on all the kind of variables that go into it, and again, the vital role that waste reclaimers play in the value chain of waste in South Africa. Our CEO had to step out and join another meeting at 4, but he also asked me to pass on his thanks, Luyanda. It was wonderful to hear from you. There are 1 or 2 other comments that say, is there a Facebook link? As far as I understand, if you search for African Reclaimers Organization on Facebook, you can find it there. Otherwise, today's webinar was recorded, and you'll be able to find that on the SST YouTube page. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It was wonderful to have you all here, and yes, Luyanda, do you want to say anything in closing?
Oh no, thank you very much for letting us come down and explain who and what we are, what we do, for engaging, for the recognition of saying, let's hear what the informal waste collectors are saying about the pandemic. Yeah, and let's separate our materials and yeah, start reclaiming with reclaimers.
Wonderful. I think you've given everyone a lot of food for thought. Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we hope to see you again at a future webinar. Thanks, everyone.